Let us take up a very important topic, a very debatable topic from its very inception. It is the rotation of auditors. Section 139 of Companies Act 2013 talks about the rotation of auditors. What do you mean by rotation? Let us take this as an example. I have a company, say ABC and Company, and I have Mr. P doing the audit of ABC. As per the rotation, it means that Mr. P will have to vacate his office after a particular tenure so that other auditors can be appointed, and not that Mr. P is being debarred or is ineligible now. He can actually be reappointed after the completion of a particular tenure. A lot of countries apart from India actually follows the rotation of auditors to ensure that the integrity, objectivity and independence of the auditor is adhered to. When we say that the rotation of auditors has been a debatable topic, why would we say that? So there has been two schools of thoughts in this regard. Very first being that the long-term relationship of the auditors with the client affects their independence. For example, if an auditor has been performing an audit of a company for a considerable long period, he tends to develop a sense of security with the client. There has actually been a particular inflow from the clients to the auditors. So, if later on in the period or in the later on in his audit tenure with the company, he wants to issue a qualified opinion or he has certain reservation about the financials, he would definitely think twice before disclaiming it. Why? Because of course there has been a continuously flow from the company to the auditors. To ensure that the flow is not restricted or for the auditors to not lose his client, he would obviously do something in favor of the client, and somewhere the true picture will not be depicted. And hence, the government, the Companies Act was enacted with the viewpoint that such reservation actually are brought to the notice of the people. Another point of debating over the rotation, another point why the rotation of the auditors was actually not supported by the business houses. We know that performing an audit of various industries, say if I have to perform an audit of a shipping industry and it's my first time, I would take considerable period of time, I would take considerable period of years to get to know the business. Keeping the limit of 5 years on the auditors would actually increase the overall cost. This is because the learning curve. So when we say that section 139 has been adopted by the international practice. So if I have a company in USA and I have a subsidiary of that company in India, not only will I have to change the head office in USA's auditors within a considerable period of time, but now because of insertion of such a section, I'll have to ensure that the auditors at this level are also rotated. So for an economy like India, wherein we have a lot of global industries functioning, where we have a lot of companies functioning, to have such a situation for them, they now have to handle with two audit rotations, one at the head office level, other being at the Indian subsidiary level. Because of this, of course, the entire rotation process, the overhead cost or the additional requirement have been increased. We know that the individuals can perform the audit of the firm, and also a firm or an LLP can be appointed as the auditors. So rotation has two subsections, or it has two divisions in terms of individuals and firms. So when an individual is appointed as an auditor of the company, it has to stand rotated within a period of 5 years. Whereas where a firm is appointed as an auditor of the company, it has a tenure of 10 years, post which the rotation takes place. After the rotation has been taken place, or after the auditor stands removed, there is a cooling period of 5 years. Cooling period meaning, it means that the auditors who are removed or the erstwhile auditors cannot be appointed as the auditors of the company for the subsequent period of 5 years. So for example, if I have Mr. A doing the audit of a company, he can perform the audit for a period of 5 years, removed or rotated or substituted by another auditor, say B. Meanwhile, Mr. B can serve as an auditor for 5 years. After he's completed 5 years, again Mr. A can be appointed. So this is the entire function of rotation of auditors. Now to whom is the rotation applicable? Is it applicable to each and every entity? No. So we have the listed company who has to adhere to section 139 of rotations. We have unlisted companies having a share capital of more than 10 crores. Then we have private companies having a share capital of more than 20 crores. All the other companies apart from the above three, that means all the other company apart from listed, unlisted having a share capital of 10 crores, private companies having a share capital of 20 crores, all the other company where the total borrowings exceeds 50 crores from the financial institutions, from the banks, NBFCs, public deposits. If the total amount exceeds 50 crores, they have to comply with the rotation requirement of Companies Act 2013. Now, the extension or the explanation to the Companies 2013 section 139, it says what? Where an outgoing auditor or the auditor who has to be rotated, if he has any relation or if he has any linkage with the incoming auditor, it will disqualify the incoming auditor to be appointed as the auditor of the company. Take up an example. We have ABCN company doing the audit of, say, XYZ Limited. So ABC, the firm doing audit of the XYZ Limited, C being the signing partner, the tenure of 5 years was completed. C then later on went and joined PQR. So it became PQRC. Again Mr. C was appointed as the auditor of XYZ Limited. Now in this case the very purpose or the fundamental behind the rotation was defeated. This is because we had the same auditor doing the audit for an actual period of 10 years, that is Mr. C. First he functioned from ABCN company, later on PQRCN company. So in order to avoid such cheats or in order to avoid such a loophole in the clause, the extension and the explanation states what? It says that if an outgoing auditor has any relationship or is by any way linked to the incoming auditors will also be debarred from the appointment. When the outgoing auditors are functioning under the brand name and the same brand name is used by the incoming auditors, they will still be assumed or they will be still understood to have a certain business connection, and then they will not be allowed to function as an auditor of the company. Considering section 139 of the rotation, does that mean it impacts the right of the auditor to resign from his seat or resign as an auditor of the company? Or does it mean that it restricts the company or the members to remove the auditor before the completion of his tenure? The answer is no. So section 139 is an independent section. It no way impacts the right of the shareholders to remove the auditors, neither does it have any effect on the auditors, and it does not hold the auditors back to resign from his office. Coming down to Rule 6 of Companies Audit and Auditors Rule 2014, read with section 139 of the Companies 2013, it talks about the manner of appointment of the auditors. So manner of appointment of auditors in case of rotation, it has been divided into two categories. Firstly, we have companies having the audit committee, and then we have companies having no audit committee. Talking of companies having the audit committee, where I have the audit committee, the recommendation for the prospective auditors or the recommendation of the internal auditors or the incoming auditors, has to flow in from the audit committee. So the audit committee will make a recommendation to the board of directors. Board of directors will place such recommendation in front of the shareholders in the AGM, and shareholders will appoint the auditors. Mind you, the rotation, again I repeat, is an independent section and it has no effect on the appointment, reappointment and the other clauses of the Act. Shareholders still appoint the auditors. So talking of the company having the audit committee, it has to flow from the audit committee to the board of directors. Board of directors placing it in front of the shareholders, shareholders doing the appointment. Talking of a company having no audit committee, the suggestion it can flow from directly the board of directors. So when section 139 was enacted and when it was it came into picture, the government actually placed a leisure period of 3 years for the companies to comply with the requirement. That means The listed companies, unlisted with a paid-up share capital of 10 crores, private companies of more than 20 crores and other companies having borrowings of more than 50 crores, all of them were not required to immediately adhere to the provision. They were given a period of 3 years to comply with the requirement, which means that if I have an auditor working for me for a period of 4 years and the section came into picture, that does not mean he can actually serve 1 year and then he has to subject to rotation. I have been given a period of next 3 years. That means he can serve with me for the next 3 years, on the completion of which I have to comply with the rotation requirements. That means the auditor can serve with me for a total period of 7 years. I have attached examples for your ready reference about how the 3 years period has to be taken into account and subject to which the rotation has to be taken place. To summarize our lecture, I would say that rotation has to be done by the companies as stated in section 139. Individual auditors can be appointed for a period of 5 years, partnership form for 10 years, subject to the cooling period of the next 5 years, they can be reappointed, and that the very inception of the clause 139 has no effect on the other clauses of the Companies Act 2013. Thank you.